Hey everybody, this is Sean with Tab Performance, and today I'm going to show you how to install the Tab Performance head pipe on the Milwaukee 8 Touring models. Alright, so some of the tools you're going to need as far as sockets goes, you're going to need a 15mm, 9/16, 5/16, and a 1/2 inch. You'll also need a 1/4 inch Allen and a 5/16 Allen, 9/16 wrench, and some C-clip pliers. So the first step to do this job is to remove the bags, and to do that you simply open up the bags and loosen the two knobs here. Just back them out like you would any bolt. Also, you want to be sure if you have any wires running to either a speaker or a light, you want to make sure to disconnect that. And they lift right off. The next step is to remove the mufflers. First thing you need to do is loosen up the clamps. On this right hand side it's a 15mm, the left hand side is a 9/16. So go ahead and loosen up the clamps here. Once you have the clamp loosened, there are two bag brackets here, and it's a 1/2 inch socket, so go ahead and take those out. And it always helps us to go ahead and add a little bit of WD-40 where the muffler slips over the header. They should just slip right off of there. Once we get the mufflers off, we can go ahead and move up front, and we need to take this floorboard off to get to the header here. So you don't need to take it all the way off. You can just remove the back bolt and loosen the front one, and then just let it hang here, and that'll give us enough room to get the heat shields off there. And that is a 5/16 Allen. Now we can go ahead and start removing the heat shields here, and we need to work from back to front. So we'll take this piece off here, and then we'll go ahead and take these two pieces off here, and it's just two hose clamps kind of hiding underneath here, and you can either use a flathead screwdriver or a 5/16 socket. And go ahead and back those all the way out. And one thing you'll probably notice here, that this is not actually the stock header. This is our aftermarket header here that we made. We have it on here because we were doing some dyno runs, so we just left it on because the process is going to be the exact same as take the stock one off, so you can still follow the steps that I'm doing. Now that the heat shields are off, we can go ahead and start loosening the bolts that hold the head pipe onto the bike. There's another clamp here that connects the head pipe to the cross under piece, so we can go ahead and loosen that clamp up, and it's a 9/16. Once you get the cross under clamp loosened, you can go ahead and remove the bracket bolt that supports this cross under piece into position. Go ahead and back it all the way out. Then we have a 1/2 inch nut here, and then there's two nuts per cylinder here, so we have two in the back and two in the front that we need to remove as well. Once you get that bracket off, you can go ahead and slide your retainers down off the studs that hold them in there. Make sure you have all the bolts off. And then you can just go ahead and maneuver this to get it out. And then before you can take this thing off, there's actually 2 O2 sensor bolts that you need to go ahead and loosen, or actually take all the way out. So 9/16 wrench here. Those out, go ahead and back this thing out slowly and be careful. You still have that heat shield connected to the cross under, so you want to make sure you don't bang it on anything when you pull it out. So this is the Tab Performance head pipe, and the new head pipe is going to come with both the stock O2 sensor bungs and wideband O2 sensor bungs, and depending on what your setup is, whichever one you're not using, you're going to go ahead and plug. So it comes with a couple different plugs. It comes with the plugs for the narrow band and the wideband, so whichever ones you're not using, go ahead and plug those up. Alright, once you get the stock header off, we're going to reuse the C-clip and the flange here. So take your C-clip pliers, move the clip, the flange will slide right off. The same thing here for the rear cylinder.
Okay. Now that we've got the stock head pipes off, we're going to go ahead and remove these gaskets and replace them with the supplied Tab Performance conical gaskets. It's always a good idea when you're changing a head pipe to put in new gaskets to make sure you avoid any exhaust leaks. Alright, so now that we've removed the stock gasket, you just want to make sure that you got all of it out, there's nothing remaining, and we're ready to install our conical gasket here. So with these you want to be really careful, because what can happen on a conical gasket, if you don't get it installed properly, it can bunch up and kink and restrict flow, and then you can also get an exhaust leak. So what you want to do is just by hand kind of get it started where it's okay. We're gonna
next you're gonna take the new header, put the flange on first, then reinstall the C-clip. Next we're going to go ahead and get it into position here. Line it up there, line it up there, slide your flanges up onto the studs. That'll help hold it in place while you bolt it on there. I like to get these started just loosely. Alright, I like to keep it a little loose just so I can have some free play here, because it makes reinstalling the O2 sensors a lot easier because there's not a whole lot of room to play with. So here I'm just going to counter twist this the opposite way that it needs to be twisted in. those are on there, go ahead and start snugging things down. So before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and install this bracket down here. It goes on a certain way, just like that. That one started. Then I'm going to go ahead and start tightening down the actual bolts that bolt the head pipe up into the heads here. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth to make sure everything's even. I don't want to tighten down one bolt as tight as I can because it may get lopsided in there. So just go back and forth on each stud there, and then also on each cylinder. So next up here, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the stock cross-under piece. Make sure you have that clamp on there before you do it. And what I like to do is I like to feed it through from the opposite side so I can just get a little bit more leverage on it. Just make sure that's on there, and then if it's struggling to go on there, a little bit of WD-40 goes a long way there. That should help slip it right on. Next, while we're down there on the cross-under piece, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the bracket here. And that's with this 1/4 inch Allen. Once you got the cross-under piece, we can go ahead and install the heat shields. I like to leave them on there a little bit loose to start off with, so that way I can get everything into place and I know it's right before I tighten everything up. For this rear heat shield, there's two little standoffs here on this back hose clamp. So just when you put this on, you want to make sure that this hose clamp is going to be resting on these two standoffs. Once the heat shields are on, we can go ahead and put on the floorboard. Alright, now we'll go ahead and move to the mufflers. We'll start with the right side, and again the right side is a 15mm, the left hand side is a 9/16 on those hoses. We like to just utilize the same stock placement of the exhaust clamp. So when you put it on there, you want this thing down and out. Otherwise, if you have it facing in, it's hard to get to with the ratchet there, so just make sure it's down and out. And again, it may help to spray some WD-40 on there just to help it slip on, but it should just slide right on there for you. And you want to be careful not to overdo it here, because if you're pushing really hard, it may slip, and then you may bump your muffler into the heat shield here, and you'll have a big scratch right here. So just something to be aware of there. Alright, before we tighten that down, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the bag brackets there. Now I'm going to go ahead and move to the left side here. So I like to leave these clamps loose until after I get the bags on. So once I have the bags on, then I can kind of adjust the mufflers where I want them to be so that they, so the slash cuts line up with the bags and to make sure they're not sideways inside those bag cutouts there. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the bags on, and again you just set it on here, line up the bolts here, screw them in evenly. And again, just like we did when we took them off, if you have any wires plugged in here, make sure they're plugged back in. Get these tightened up. Now that the bags are on here, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the mufflers to where I like where they're sitting in here. You don't have to do it this way. This is just something we like to do to make sure everything's even. You can go ahead and tighten them down before you put the bags on. The only thing you want to make sure you do, if you're doing it my way, you don't want to pull it too far out, the muffler, because you want to make sure this exhaust clamp is fully on there with the full width of the clamp. And if you do that, then you should be good to go. Okay, so now that I have the mufflers lined up where I think they look good, they're in line with the bags, they have an equal gap between the muffler and the bag here and on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. Another thing too, you want to remember that that cross under clamp needs to be tightened down as well. But other than that, that is the end of the install there, so that's all there is to it.